People think horror lives in cities and alleyways, old hospitals, and abandoned buildings. But they're wrong. True horror hides in the quiet places, the forgotten towns, the lonely roads, the places where no one's watching when something terrible happens. I used to be a cop in one of those towns. Small, empty, and so quiet. You could hear the corn whisper at night. Most nights were nothing. Until the night I got the call about the Barnes family. I've tried not to think about it for years, but lately, I've been seeing things again. Lights where there shouldn't be lights. Faces in the reflection of my window that don't belong to me. So before I lose the courage, before I lose myself completely, I'm going to tell you what happened, what I saw, and why no one ever talks about the Barnes house anymore. Rural Iowa doesn't have much going on. You wake up, drive the same empty roads, past the same cracked barns, and wave to the same faces that barely change with the seasons. That's how I liked it. Quiet, predictable. I was a police officer then, in a town where disturbances usually meant a cow got loose, or someone's kid took a joyride down Main Street. I can't tell you exactly when things changed, but I remember that night, the way the air felt heavy before anything even happened. The radio had been silent for hours. I was halfway through my thermos of stale coffee when the static crackled to life. "Officer Brims, you there?" It was Bill Hastings, a farmer built from the same dirt his land sat on. Calm, reliable, never one for nonsense. "I think my neighbors are missing," he said. I rubbed my temple. "Who's that, Bill?" "The Barnes family. Haven't seen him in 2 weeks. House is still lit up. Livestock still fed. Cars still there. Something's off. The Barnes family. Married couple, 2 kids. Quiet, polite, the type you'd call picture perfect. The kind who waved at everyone on Sunday, but left before the last hymn ended. I told Bill I'd check it out. I wish to God I hadn't. The drive out west took nearly half an hour. The sky was burning with that deep orange you only see before darkness swallows the plains. The further I went, the more the world thinned out. No houses, no cars, just miles of wind and whispering corn. Bill wasn't exaggerating. The Barnes' farmhouse was glowing like a beacon, every single window burning gold against the dark. Something about that bothered me. People forget to turn off a light, sure, but all of them. For 2 weeks, I parked near the old Ford in the driveway. Its tires had sunk halfway into the dirt. That meant it hadn't moved in days. The air felt strange, too still, like the land was holding its breath. I stepped out gravel, crunching under my boots, and walked toward the porch. When I knocked, the sound didn't echo. It just vanished, like the house swallowed it whole. The door was unlocked. The smell hit me first, not rot, not yet. It was cooking. Meat and rosemary faint but fresh. Inside, everything was spotless. The floors gleamed, the air was warm, and not a speck of dust anywhere. It didn't look lived in, it looked arranged, staged. I called out Mr. Barnes. Mrs. Barnes, silence. My voice didn't carry. I swear it just died, halfway through the hallway, like the walls drank it. When I reached the dining room, I froze. The entire family sat at the table, father, mother, 2 children. Their hands folded neatly, heads bowed like they were praying. The food in front of them looked fresh. Steam still rose from the plates. But they weren't breathing. I stepped closer, heart hammering. Above them, carved deep into the ceiling, was a pentagram. Rough, uneven, burned into the wood. And then I noticed something else. There were 5 plates on the table, only of 4 bodies. The 5th chair sat empty, a plate perfectly set before it. Waiting, I radioed in for backup for deceased possible homicide and got the reply I dreaded 25 minutes out. I didn't want to wait. Something about that house felt alive, like the walls were listening. I climbed the stairs, each creak too loud in the silence. The second floor was nothing like the first. Dust clung to everything, the air damp and stale. Halfway down the hallway, I saw a photo sitting on a table. It was the Barnes family seated at the same dinner table, smiling for the camera. But the fifth chair wasn't empty. Something sat there. It was small, warped its flesh, stretched and bulging like it didn't fit inside its own skin. The thing had the rough shape of a child, but its limbs were swollen, its face. Wrong. I set the picture down and kept moving. The master bedroom door was cracked open. A smell of copper and decay seeped through. Inside the bed was soaked with blood, dark, sticky, pooling onto the floor. But there was no body. On the nightstand, a small black journal waited open. I read the first page. March 4th. We lost him. The doctor said it was quick, but how would they know? They didn't see his eyes. They didn't hear the way he stopped breathing. Most of the next page was scratched out in black ink. March 14th. I found something. A passage hidden in a library, older than this town. To unbury the lost, the body must be claimed. The name must be called. The invitation must be set. The flesh will answer. By the last entry, her handwriting had grown jagged, desperate. April 1st. Tomorrow is the final step. The table is set. The house is prepared. We will welcome him home. I was still staring at the journal when the door behind me creaked open. A slow dragging sound echoed from downstairs chairs, scraping dishes, clinking. I heard a breath, wet, heavy, like something learning how to breathe again. Gun drawn, I stepped back into the hallway. The air felt thick, the house vibrating softly under my feet. Then came the noise. A laugh, quiet at first, high-pitched and broken. It sounded like a baby's giggle, except deeper, warped, like someone mimicking it through water. I descended the stairs, one trembling step at a time. The dining room came into view again. The chairs had moved, the plates shifted. And in the fifth chair, something was sitting there. It was enormous, pale, its skin quivering, like something was crawling just beneath the surface. The thing was hunched over the table, shoveling food into its mouth with thick, blunt fingers. I could hear it chewing, loud, wet, desperate. It stopped. The head turned toward me. The movement was wrong, too slow, too deliberate, like its bones were rearranging themselves just to face me. Its eyes were black pits. Its mouth opened, and the sound that came out was a choking, gurgling scream that shook the floorboards. I fired once, then again. The bullets sank into its flesh with dull, wet thuds, disappearing like I'd fired into mud. The thing lurched up from the chair, its body bulging, tearing, and began to move toward me. I ran. Down the hall toward the front door. The whole house shook, beams, cracking windows, bursting inward. The smell of decay filled the air, thick enough to choke on. Just as my hand hit the doorknob, red and blue lights flashed outside. Tires screeched. Backup had arrived. The creature was right behind me. I could feel its breath on my neck. Gunfire erupted from outside. The windows shattered, bullets ripping through walls, flesh and wood. The thing screamed again, this time, deeper, primal, like it was realizing it could die. It convulsed, collapsing into itself, melting like a candle in a furnace. The air turned sour with the stench of burning meat. Then silence. When I stepped outside, the other officers just stared. No one spoke, no one asked. By sunrise, the house was gone, burned to ash. Men in plain uniforms loaded what was left into black trucks. No tags, no questions. The chief told me, forget this ever happened. The papers called it a gas leak, a tragic family accident, but there were no bodies, not one. I left the force a year later. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that fifth plate. And then 2 weeks ago, a letter showed up at my door. No name, no address. Inside was a photograph. The Barnes family sitting at the table again, 5 of them this time, all smiling. That photo still sits in my desk drawer. I've tried burning it, tearing it, even throwing it into the river. But every morning, it's back perfectly dry, perfectly folded, waiting. The official report never mentioned what really happened. They called it a gas explosion. But sometimes, late at night, when the wind comes down from the fields, I swear I can hear a child laughing out there. Low, wet, like something still learning how to breathe. If you ever find yourself driving through western Iowa and you see a light flicker across an empty field, keep driving, don't stop. And whatever you do, don't answer if someone calls your name.